I'm Isabella, 30 years old and a marketing executive who clawed my way up from nothing. Last year, I married Nathan after a whirlwind romance that felt like a fairy tale. His wealthy family welcomed me with open arms, or so I thought. Then came the family meeting where my mother-in-law Judith stared directly at me and said, "Your family now. Pay your share." She demanded half my salary. "That's only right." My husband nodded in agreement. Before I tell you what happened, next, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and subscribe if you've ever dealt with entitled family members. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what I did next. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. My parents were hardworking people who instilled in me the value of education and independence. Mom worked 2 jobs as a nurse's aide while Dad drove trucks across the country. We never had much, but they sacrificed everything to make sure I could attend college. Even with their help, I took out substantial student loans and worked 30 hours a week at a coffee shop while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. Every morning started at 4 a.m., making lattes until my first class, then studying until midnight. Weekends weren't for parties. They were for picking up extra shifts and tutoring freshmen for additional income. That grind continued for 4 years straight. After graduation, I started at Bailey Marketing Group as an intern making coffee runs and organizing spreadsheets. I lived in a tiny studio apartment with 3 roommates, eating ramen for dinner most nights so I could make my student loan payments on time. Promotion came because I stayed late, volunteered for the projects nobody wanted, and delivered results that exceeded expectations. 6 years of relentless work later, I became the youngest executive in the company's history. I met Nathan at the annual Marketing Innovation Conference in Chicago. He represented his family's investment firm, Campbell Investments, looking to expand their marketing division. I noticed him during my presentation on digital strategy transformation. While most attendees were taking notes, Nathan maintained unwavering eye contact, a slight smile playing on his lips. During the networking hour afterward, he approached me with 2 glasses of champagne. "Your presentation was brilliant," he said, handing me a glass. "You managed to make ROI metrics sound poetic." Nathan was undeniably charming with his deep blue eyes, perfectly styled brown hair, and tailored suit that screamed old money. His confidence was magnetic, and his attention made me feel special. We exchanged business cards, and he texted me that same evening asking for dinner. Over truffle risotto and expensive wine, conversation flowed effortlessly. Nathan listened intently as I shared my journey, seemingly impressed by my drive. Our courtship was a whirlwind of fancy restaurants, weekend getaways to wine country, and thoughtful gifts. Nathan was attentive, romantic, and seemed genuinely proud of my accomplishments. Yet, looking back, there were subtle red flags I chose to ignore. When I mentioned wanting to save for a down payment on a condo, he laughed lightly and said, "Why worry about real estate when you could just marry into it?" I took it as a joke at the time. 3 months into dating, Nathan invited me to meet his family at their lake house. The Campbell estate was breathtaking, a sprawling property with private beach access and a boathouse bigger than my apartment. His parents, Walter and Judith Campbell, greeted me with practiced warmth that didn't quite reach their eyes. Judith, immaculately dressed in designer clothes with not a platinum hair out of place, hugged me while assessing every inch of my department. "Store outfit. Marketing executive at 30? How enterprising of you," she said. Though I always found corporate careers so exhausting, I chose family instead. Her tone suggested one choice was clearly superior. Throughout the weekend, I noticed how the family operated. Walter controlled all conversations about money. Nathan deferred to his father on every decision. His sister Rebecca and her husband, Daniel, seemed to exist in a strange limbo of financial dependency and reluctant gratitude. Everyone praised the family business like it was a religion. Despite the undercurrents, Nathan proposed 6 months later with a family heirloom ring. "Join our family," he said, "not build a life with me." Still, I was in love and said yes. The wedding was lavish, paid for entirely by the Campbells with minimal input from me or my parents, who felt distinctly out of place among the country club crowd. The first few months of marriage were happy. We moved into a beautiful condo that Nathan owned, or rather was owned by a Campbell family trust. I continued excelling at work while Nathan handled accounts for select family clients. Yet subtle changes began. Nathan started suggesting I didn't need to work such long hours. He questioned my business trips. When my year-end bonus came, he immediately brought up renovating the kitchen with our money. "We should combine all our accounts," he suggested one evening. "That's what married couples do." I hesitated, having always maintained my financial independence. "Maybe we can keep some separate accounts for personal expenses?" His face tightened momentarily before relaxing into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Whatever makes you comfortable, sweetheart. We have plenty of time to become a proper family." Looking back, I should have recognized that controlling financial decisions wasn't just a quirk of Nathan's personality. It was the Campbell family business model, and I was their newest acquisition. The first real test of our marriage came 8 months in when Nathan lost his job. The investment firm he worked for, outside the family business, underwent restructuring and eliminated his entire department. I found him sitting in our dark living room one evening, tumbler of whiskey in hand. "They let everyone go," he said flatly, "effective immediately." My heart went out to him. I knew how much he valued his independence from the family business, even if it was largely symbolic. I sat beside him, taking his hand in mine. "We'll be okay," I assured him. "My job is secure, and you're incredibly talented. You'll find something even better." For the first month, I supported him emotionally and financially without complaint. I took on extra projects at work to ensure our income remained stable. Nathan spent his days supposedly updating his resume and networking, though I rarely saw evidence of actual job applications. Whenever I suggested opportunities, he found reasons why they weren't suitable. "That position is beneath my qualifications," or "that company has a terrible culture," became common responses. When his father called offering a position at Campbell Investments, I expected Nathan to continue his stated goal of building his own career path. Instead, he hesitated. "It's complicated," he said when I asked why he wouldn't interview elsewhere. "The family business is going through some transitions. Dad might need my help specifically." Despite my encouragement to explore all options, Nathan grew increasingly resistant to job searching outside the family fold. Meanwhile, our expenses mysteriously increased. Nathan insisted on maintaining our lifestyle, which included country club memberships, weekly dinners at expensive restaurants, and his golf outings, with important connections. When I gently suggested cutting back until he found employment, he looked genuinely confused. "Why would we decrease our standard of living? Your salary covers the basics." I was stunned. My executive salary was indeed substantial, but it wasn't designed to support 2 people living luxuriously while also saving for our future and paying my student loans. Still, I didn't push the issue, not wanting to hurt his pride during a vulnerable time. Then came the in-laws' increasing presence in our financial discussions. Judith began dropping by unannounced, often when Nathan was home alone. After these visits, he would approach me with new financial considerations. "Mom thinks we should contribute to their anniversary party. Everyone in the family is pitching in $5,000. Dad mentioned their investment group has an opportunity, but we'd need to put in at least $10,000 to participate." Each time I would ask questions about the details, return on investment, or why his unemployed status didn't exempt us from these family obligations. Nathan would become defensive. This is how families support each other. The Campbells take care of their own. My promotion at work should have been purely celebratory. After landing 3 major clients and developing a revolutionary campaign strategy, Bailey Marketing made me Chief Marketing Strategist with a 40% pay increase. I was ecstatic and called Nathan immediately. "That's great, babe," he said, his enthusiasm noticeably muted. "We should celebrate. I'll make dinner reservations at La Maison." That evening, rather than focusing on my achievement, the conversation quickly turned to what my increased salary meant for our future. Nathan had apparently already discussed my promotion with his parents. "Mom and Dad are so impressed," he said, swirling expensive red wine in his glass. "Dad said this is perfect timing since the annual family investment pool is coming up. With your raise, we can finally contribute our fair share." I nearly choked on my wine. "Annual family investment. Pool. You've never mentioned this before," Nathan waved dismissively. "It's just something we've always done. Everyone contributes based on their capacity, and the family financial advisor invests it collectively. The returns have been excellent." "And how much would our fair share be?" I asked cautiously. "Just 30% of your annual income," he replied as if requesting spare change. Everyone does it. The pressure intensified when Judith called to personally congratulate me on my promotion. After brief pleasantries, she segued smoothly into financial expectations. "Nathan tells me you're hesitant about the family investment strategy," she said, voice dripping with disappointment. "Rebecca and Daniel contribute 40% of their income, despite having children to support. Family commitments should always come first, Isabella." I felt increasingly uneasy, but tried to maintain boundaries without creating conflict. "I'm still adjusting to our new financial situation with Nathan between jobs. Once things stabilize, we can discuss long-term investment strategies." Judith's tone chilled. "Campbell family members understand sacrifice for the greater good. I thought you shared our values when you married my son." After ending the call, I immediately phoned my college friend Emily, the only person in my life completely removed from the Campbell sphere of influence. Over video chat, I explained the mounting financial pressures. "This sounds extremely controlling," Emily said, forehead creased with concern. "Why are his parents dictating how you spend your money? And why is Nathan okay with this?" "They frame everything as family tradition or Campbell values," I explained. "Questioning it makes me the outsider who doesn't understand family loyalty." Emily's expression hardened. "Isabella, this isn't normal. Married couples make financial decisions together, not with an entire extended family committee." Her words resonated, but the situation escalated before I could fully process them. Nathan announced that his parents had scheduled the annual Campbell financial planning session for the following weekend. All family members were required to attend. "It's just a formal dinner where Dad reviews the family financial goals," Nathan explained, avoiding eye contact. "Nothing to worry about." But as the date approached, Nathan grew increasingly anxious, checking my work schedule multiple times to ensure I couldn't claim a conflict. He even laid out my outfit the night before, a conservative blue dress that Judith had once complimented. His behavior triggered a growing sense of dread that kept me awake that night, staring at the ceiling and wondering what exactly awaited me at this casual dinner. The Campbell estate looked particularly imposing that evening as Nathan and I drove through the wrought iron gates. Several luxury cars already lined the circular driveway, indicating the entire extended family had arrived before us. I thought, "This was just your immediate family," I said, noting at least 8 vehicles. Nathan shifted uncomfortably in the driver's seat. "Dad sometimes includes Uncle Robert and Aunt Kathleen for financial discussions, and Cousin William works in accounting, so he provides valuable input." The knot in my stomach tightened. This wasn't sounding like any family dinner I'd ever attended. Judith greeted us at the door in a formal black dress, pearls gleaming at her throat. "You're the last to arrive," she said, checking her diamond-encrusted watch. Walter was about to begin. "Begin what?" I wondered as she ushered us through the marble foyer into the formal dining room. The scene that awaited wasn't a casual family meal, but what looked like a corporate board meeting. The long mahogany table was set with leather portfolios at each place, rather than dinner plates. Walter stood at the head, remote control in hand, a projection screen lowered behind him displaying a PowerPoint titled Campbell Family Financial Overview 2023. Rebecca and Daniel sat stiffly on one side, alongside elderly Uncle Robert and Aunt Kathleen. Cousin William had a calculator and laptop open. Two people I'd never met occupied the far end with notepads ready. Everyone looked up as we entered, their expressions a mixture of impatience and something that felt uncomfortably like anticipation. "Ah, Nathan and Isabella have arrived," Walter announced. "We can begin properly now." Nathan guided me to the two remaining seats near Walter. As we sat, I noticed my name printed on the leather portfolio. Opening it revealed meticulously prepared spreadsheets detailing my company, position, salary, projected career trajectory, and recent promotion details. My private financial information was displayed for everyone to see. "How did you get this information?" I whispered to Nathan, shock and anger rising. He squeezed my hand in warning. "Not now," he muttered. "Just listen." Walter began his presentation, with charts showing the Campbell family enterprise structure, a complex web of businesses, investments, and property holdings. He spoke at length about legacy planning and collective family advancement, phrases that seemed to carry weighted meaning for everyone but me. "Now let's review individual contributions," Walter continued, clicking to a new slide. "Rebecca and Daniel have maintained their 40% contribution rate despite daycare costs increasing for the children. Their dedication to family advancement is commendable." Rebecca smiled tightly while Daniel stared at his hands. Walter clicked again, revealing a slide with Nathan's name and a conspicuously empty contribution column. "Nathan's employment transition has temporarily affected his contribution capacity," Walter stated, voice neutral, but eyes sharp. "However, the Campbell family always adapts to support its members through challenging times." The next slide featured my name, complete with salary details and a projection of my future earning potential. A large red circle highlighted my recent promotion and raise. "This brings us to our newest family member, Isabella," Walter continued, nodding in my direction. "Your professional success presents an opportunity to meaningfully participate in family financial advancement for the first time." The room's attention shifted to me, the weight of their collective gaze suffocating. Judith leaned forward, perfectly manicured nails tapping against the table. "Your family now, Isabella," she declared. "Pay your share. The Campbell family pool requires 50% of your income." The silence that followed felt eternal. I looked at Nathan, expecting him to defend me or express shock at this outrageous demand. Instead, he nodded in agreement. "That's only right," he said, avoiding my eyes. "We all contribute what we can." Blood rushed to my ears as betrayal washed over me. 50% of my income. Half of everything I'd worked for, demanded by people who'd contributed nothing to my success. My hand trembled slightly as I closed the portfolio containing my financial information, obtained without my knowledge or consent. "This is quite unexpected," I managed to say, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I'll need time to consider such a significant financial commitment." Judith's smile tightened. "There's nothing to consider. Campbell family members pool resources. It's how we've built our legacy." Uncle Robert nodded sagely. "When I married Kathleen, my first bonus went entirely to the family fund. Didn't question it for a moment." "And look at Rebecca and Daniel," Judith continued. "They contribute faithfully despite having 2 children in private school." Rebecca's smile didn't reach her eyes. Something in her expression hinted at a deeper story, a resignation that sent a chill through me. Walter clicked to another slide showing a family tree with financial figures beside each name. "Every Campbell contributes according to their ability. With your recent promotion, your ability has significantly increased." The family business's financial struggles became apparent as Walter continued his presentation. Reading between the lines of corporate jargon, it seemed the Campbell Investments had overextended itself on several ventures. They weren't asking for my contribution, they were depending on it. Nathan placed his hand over mine in what appeared to others as a supportive gesture, but I felt the pressure in his fingers. "Sweetheart, we discussed supporting the family. This is what that looks like." We had never discussed anything of the sort. The room seemed to close in around me as I realized the magnitude of the manipulation at play. This wasn't a sudden decision, but a carefully orchestrated plan, perhaps in motion since Nathan first approached me at that conference. "I need some time to process this," I said finally, surprising myself with how calm I sounded despite the storm raging inside me. "There's nothing to process," Judith said sharply. "This is a family obligation." A moment of clarity struck me as I looked around the table at the expectant faces. This was a test, one designed for me to fail unless I capitulated completely. But I hadn't climbed from poverty to executive leadership by surrendering at the first sign of intimidation. "I understand family obligations," I replied carefully. "But I also believe in thorough financial planning. I'll need to review how this affects our household budget, retirement savings, and my student loan repayment schedule. I'm sure you appreciate the importance of due diligence, Walter." Using his own corporate terminology created a momentary impasse. Walter nodded reluctantly, respecting the language of business if nothing else. "1 week should be sufficient for your review," he conceded. Nathan shot me a warning glance as conversation shifted to other family financial matters. I sat quietly, nodding at appropriate intervals while my mind raced, formulating not just a response but a strategy. They had planned this ambush meticulously. My counter would need to be equally calculated. As we drove home in tense silence, I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about power, control, and whether I would surrender my autonomy to become another Campbell acquisition. Nathan attempted several times to begin a conversation, but I pleaded exhaustion, buying precious time to think. That night, as Nathan slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision. I'd give the Campbells exactly what they deserved. A response that would leave them speechless. The morning after the family meeting, I called in sick to work for the first time in my career. Once Nathan left for his recently acquired position at Campbell Investments, I began my counteroffensive. My first call was to Charlotte Reynolds, a financial advisor I'd met through a women's business leadership conference. Unlike the Campbell's financial team, Charlotte had no connection to my husband's family. 50% of your income without prior discussion or agreement? Charlotte's professional demeanor cracked slightly. "Isabella, that's not just financially unsound, it may constitute financial abuse." Those words hit me hard. Abuse. I'd always associated that term with physical violence or emotional cruelty, not spreadsheets and family investment pools. "What are my options legally?" I asked. "First, we need to understand exactly what's happening with your finances. Bring me everything: bank statements, tax returns, investment accounts, property documents, everything." I spent the day gathering financial records and realized how little I actually knew about our complete financial picture. Nathan handled bill payments from our joint account, which I contributed to regularly. But beyond that, I had limited visibility into where our money actually went. 3 days of intensive financial forensics with Charlotte revealed disturbing patterns. Since our marriage, substantial sums had transferred from our joint account to various Campbell family entities. The household expenses Nathan cited to justify increasing my contributions were largely payments to Campbell-owned properties and businesses. More alarming were the credit card statements Charlotte helped me obtain. Nathan had opened several cards in both our names, accumulating nearly $70,000 in debt I knew nothing about. Many charges were for gifts to his parents, family business expenses, and luxury items for himself. He's legally exposed you to significant liability, Charlotte explained. As his spouse, you could be responsible for these debts despite having no knowledge of them. My shock turned to cold anger when we discovered the most damning evidence: emails between Nathan and his parents discussing my career prospects before we even met. Target acquired at Chicago conference, Nathan had written just days after our first meeting. Promotion track looks promising. Estimated value potential exceeds projections. They had researched me, targeted me for my earning potential, and orchestrated our entire relationship as a financial acquisition. Armed with mounting evidence, I expanded my support network cautiously. I contacted Emily, who immediately offered her guest room if needed. I consulted Sandra Miller, an attorney specializing in family financial disputes, who helped me understand my options and protection strategies. At work, I approached my boss, Richard, with a carefully framed version of my situation. I'm dealing with some complicated personal financial matters that may require flexibility with my schedule over the next few weeks. Richard's response surprised me. Isabella, I noticed you've been under unusual stress. If there's anything the company can do to support you professionally during this personal challenge, just ask. His simple kindness nearly broke my composure, but I maintained professionalism. Actually, there is something. Could we temporarily direct my paychecks to a different account? I'm restructuring my banking arrangements. Of course, HR can handle that immediately. With my immediate income secured in a new private account, I continued building my case. Charlotte helped me document every financial transaction since meeting Nathan. Sandra advised me on legally protecting my assets. Emily provided emotional support during late-night calls when the betrayal felt too heavy to bear alone. The confrontation with Nathan came sooner than I planned. He discovered the paycheck redirection when his father called, asking why my contribution hadn't arrived in the family account. "What the hell is this about?" Nathan demanded, waving his phone showing a text from Walter. I maintained calm, having anticipated this moment. "I'm reviewing our financial situation as I mentioned at the family meeting." "There's nothing to review," he snapped. "The contribution is expected. Period." "Nathan, you and your family opened credit cards in my name without my knowledge. You've transferred thousands from our joint account to Campbell businesses without consulting me. You researched me as a financial target before we even dated. Which of these would you like to explain first?" His face cycled through shock, anger, and calculation before settling on a condescending smile. "You're being ridiculous. I'm your husband. Financial decisions are my responsibility. Show me where I agreed to that arrangement. This is how marriages work, Isabella. The Campbells have built generational wealth through family loyalty. Your paranoid investigation is embarrassing and shows how little you understand about real family values." His gaslighting attempt was textbook. 6 months ago, it might have worked, making me question my own perceptions. Now, backed by evidence and allies, I stood firm. Marriages work through honesty and partnership, not exploitation. Nathan switched tactics, eyes suddenly brimming with tears. "I'm under incredible pressure from Dad. The family business is struggling. He expects me to contribute, but without your income, I have nothing to offer. They'll cut me out completely." The guilt trip might have worked once, but Charlotte had prepared me for this exact scenario. "That's between you and your father. Using me as your financial solution without honesty isn't partnership. It's parasitic." He stormed out that night to clear his head, which predictably meant running to his parents. I used his absence to secure important documents, back up my evidence to multiple locations, and prepare for the next phase. The following day brought the discovery that completed my understanding of the Campbell family operation. Rebecca, Nathan's sister, called me unexpectedly. "Isabella? It's Rebecca. Can we meet privately? There's something you should know. We met at a cafe far from Campbell territories." Rebecca looked exhausted, the perfect Campbell wife facade cracking, under strain. "You're not the first," she said quietly. Daniel was targeted the same way because of his family connections to banking. My cousin William's wife Jennifer brought valuable pharmaceutical patents through her research position. Walter identifies profitable people and Judith helps orchestrate the integration. "How many others?" I asked. "At least 5 marriages in the extended family. Once you're financially entangled and emotionally invested, it's nearly impossible to leave without losing everything." Rebecca's information was the final piece of the puzzle. This wasn't just about my income. It was a systematic operation spanning years. This realization finalized my decision about how to respond to the Campbells' demands. 1 week after the original family financial meeting, I requested my own session with the Campbell family. Judith sounded triumphant when I called, assuming my request signaled capitulation. Nathan smugly informed his parents I'd come around to understanding family obligations. I arrived at the Campbell estate dressed in my most powerful executive suit rather than the demure outfit Nathan had suggested. I carried a professional portfolio and a small rolling briefcase. The family assembled just as before, with Walter at the head of the table, ready to ceremoniously welcome me into the fold of contributors. "Isabella has requested this special session to formalize her commitment to family advancement," Walter announced, as I took my position not in the submissive seat beside Nathan, but at the opposite end of the table. "Thank you, Walter," I said, my voice steady and professional. "I appreciate everyone making time for this discussion." I withdrew a laptop from my briefcase and connected it to their projection system with a confidence that momentarily silenced the room. The PowerPoint title slide read, "Financial Autonomy and Partnership Expectations." After careful consideration of the Campbell family financial proposal, I've prepared a comprehensive response, I began, clicking to the first content slide titled, "Financial Independence in Marriage." "Last week you introduced me to the Campbell approach to family finances. Today I'll share my perspective on financial partnership and autonomy." Judith's smile faltered as she realized this wasn't the simple agreement she expected. Nathan shifted uncomfortably, while Rebecca watched with poorly concealed interest. I methodically presented slides defining healthy financial boundaries in marriage, statistics on financial abuse, and legal frameworks protecting individual assets. The family's expressions shifted from confusion to indignation as they realized this was not a surrender, but a counteroffensive. "These academic definitions are irrelevant to family business," Walter interrupted. "We have traditions that supersede conventional arrangements." "I respect traditions, Walter, which is why I've thoroughly examined the Campbell family financial history." I clicked to a slide showing a timeline of the family's business activities, including the strategic marriages Rebecca had confirmed. Nathan's face paled. "Isabella, this is inappropriate." "What's inappropriate is conducting financial due diligence on prospective spouses as acquisition targets," I replied evenly, revealing the email where Nathan had referred to me as a target with value potential. Gasps. Around the table suggested not everyone had been privy to this aspect of the Campbell strategy. Aunt Kathleen looked particularly disturbed, glancing accusingly at Uncle Robert. Judith attempted to regain control. "You're misinterpreting perfectly normal family communications." "Am I?" I clicked forward to documentation of the unauthorized credit accounts opened in my name, the systematic transfers from our joint account to Campbell businesses, and the correlation between my promotion timeline and the sudden urgency of family contributions. "This is a complex business arrangement, disguised as family tradition," I continued, "and while I agreed to marry Nathan, I never consented to financial absorption by Campbell Investments." Nathan stood abruptly. "Enough. You're my wife. Your financial decisions should align with mine." "That's exactly what we need to discuss." I turned to face him directly. "I see 2 options forward: marriage counseling with financial transparency and revised boundaries, or divorce with full financial separation." The ultimatum landed like a bomb in the meticulously controlled Campbell environment. Judith's perfectly composed facade cracked as she slammed her hand on the table. "This is absurd. Nathan, control your wife." "He can't control what he doesn't own," I replied calmly. "And that includes my income, career, and financial decisions." Walter had remained surprisingly quiet, studying my presentation with the calculation of a businessman recognizing a formidable opponent. "You've clearly put considerable thought into this analysis," he said finally. "What exactly are you proposing?" His question created an opening precisely where I'd hoped. Even in their manipulation, the Campbells respected thoroughness and strategy, values I'd weaponized against them. "I'm proposing boundaries and transparency. I make my own financial decisions. Any contribution to family investments will be my choice, not an obligation, and contingent on full disclosure of investment strategies, expected returns, and risk assessments." Rebecca unexpectedly spoke up. "She's right. Daniel and I have contributed hundreds of thousands without receiving proper documentation or returns reporting." Judith turned on her daughter. "Rebecca, this is family loyalty." "Is it loyalty or exploitation?" Rebecca countered, years of resentment finally surfacing. "Our children's college funds are depleted while William gets a new boat from the family pool." The unified Campbell front began crumbling as long-suppressed questions emerged. Cousin William defensively cited business expenses. Uncle Robert questioned investment allocations. The controlled narrative Walter and Judith had maintained for years started unraveling thread by thread. In the growing chaos, Walter attempted to regain control. "Enough. This meeting was scheduled for Isabella's contribution commitment, not a comprehensive business review." "Actually," I interjected, "any financial commitment from me requires that comprehensive review. That's non-negotiable. For the first time." I caught a glimpse of something resembling respect in Walter's expression, not affection or familial warmth, but the reluctant acknowledgement one strategic opponent gives another. The room had descended into multiple heated conversations when I tapped my pen against my water glass, creating a clear ringing that gradually silenced the family disputes. "I'd like to present my proposal," I announced with calm authority. "I've prepared copies for everyone." I distributed folders containing my terms, allowing a moment for everyone to review the documents. Nathan frantically flipped through pages, his expression growing increasingly alarmed. "This is outrageous," he sputtered. "What specifically do you find objectionable?" I asked, maintaining professional composure. This external audit requirement. The family business is private," I nodded. "Precisely my point. I'm being asked to invest 50% of my income into a private enterprise with no transparency, governance, or accountability. No financial advisor on earth would recommend such an arrangement." Walter studied the document more carefully than the others. "You're offering to contribute 15%, contingent on a complete external audit of Campbell Investments and quarterly performance reports?" "Correct. Standard requirements for any investment of this magnitude." Judith nearly vibrated with rage. "We don't need your 15% with these insulting conditions. This family has managed its affairs privately for generations." "That's your choice," I agreed smoothly. "My terms are non-negotiable if you want access to any percentage of my income." Nathan attempted damage control. "Isabella is just being cautious. We can negotiate the percentage without the audit requirement." "Actually, we can't," I replied, turning to my next slide, "because an audit would reveal some concerning patterns I've already identified." The slide displayed a simplified analysis of Campbell Investments' cash flow, highlighting irregular tax structures and questionable accounting practices I'd pieced together from Nathan's carelessly accessible laptop and documents Rebecca had provided. "These patterns suggest potential tax irregularities that an audit would examine more thoroughly," I explained. "Nothing definitively illegal based on the limited information available to me, but certainly questions regulatory authorities might find interesting." Walter's face remained impressively neutral, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. "You've overstepped, Isabella." "Have I? Or have I simply conducted the due diligence any prudent investor would before committing substantial funds? The same diligence the Campbell family apparently performed on me before Nathan initiated our relationship. This pointed reference to their calculated targeting hit its mark. Nathan's eyes darted nervously between me and his father. The power dynamic visibly shifting. Judith's composure finally shattered. "This is precisely why we vet potential spouses, to prevent gold diggers from threatening the family structure." "Gold digger," I repeated with genuine amusement. "I'm the one refusing to hand over my income. Your son married me for my earning potential after your family researched my career trajectory. Which of us is mining for gold, Judith?" "We protect family interests." Jennifer questioned things too. "And look where that got her divorce settlement." "Nothing!" Judith's outburst revealed more than she intended. Nathan tried desperately to regain control. "Mom, please. Don't. Mom, please me. Your father expects results. The Madison property development needs capital. Your contribution quota comes from somewhere, and if not her salary, then where?" The room fell silent as Judith's meltdown inadvertently confirmed everything. Walter closed his eyes briefly. Decades of careful manipulation exposed by his wife's emotional outburst. Walter finally spoke, his voice measured. "Perhaps we should adjourn to consider Isabella's proposal." "There's nothing to consider," I replied. "My terms stand. 15% contribution with full transparency and external audit, or 0% with complete financial separation between me and all Campbell family entities." Nathan turned to me, desperation evident. "Isabella, be reasonable. You're my wife." "Yes, I am. Not a Campbell acquisition, not an asset to be liquidated for family benefit. Your wife, supposedly your partner, and partners don't exploit each other. We can work this out privately," he pleaded. "Like you worked out those credit card accounts privately? Or the transfers from our joint account?" I maintained steady eye contact, refusing to be manipulated by his practiced charm. Walter cleared his throat. "Isabella, would you be willing to continue this discussion with just myself and Nathan? Perhaps we can find a compromise." "There's no compromise on financial autonomy, Walter. My boundaries aren't negotiable, only the specific terms of potential investment if those boundaries are respected." Walter's business instincts recognized the immovable position I'd established. "I see." Rising from my seat, I gathered my materials methodically. "I'll leave you to discuss as a family. Nathan, I'll be at Emily's tonight. You have my proposal. The choice is yours. Respect my financial autonomy, or proceed with separate lives." Nathan looked genuinely panicked for the first time. "You're giving me an ultimatum?" "I'm giving you clarity, something your family never gave me." I closed my briefcase with finality. I refuse to be another Jennifer, Rebecca, or Kathleen, gradually stripped of independence to fuel the Campbell machine. The mention of these names, these women whose financial autonomy had been systematically dismantled, visibly impacted the room. Uncle Robert glanced guiltily at Aunt Kathleen. Rebecca sat straighter, something like hope crossing her features. "This family has confused control with connection, exploitation with loyalty," I continued. "I won't participate in that confusion any longer." With that, I walked out, leaving behind a tableau of shocked faces. No one tried to stop me as I crossed the marble foyer and stepped into the evening air, drawing my first full breath in what felt like years. In my car, hands slightly shaking from adrenaline, I texted Emily that I was on my way. Whatever happened next, I had reclaimed my agency. The Campbells could keep their dysfunctional financial empire. I would keep my hard-earned autonomy. The days following my confrontation with the Campbell family were surprisingly peaceful, despite the upheaval. I stayed at Emily's apartment, sleeping better on her lumpy guest futon than I had in months in my luxury condo. The weight of navigating, Campbell expectations had been exhausting in ways I hadn't fully recognized until freed from them. Nathan called repeatedly, texts cycling through anger, guilt-tripping, and eventually negotiation. Walter sent a formal email proposing modified terms that still preserved Campbell control while creating an illusion of transparency. Judith remained silent, her weaponized charm rendered ineffective against someone who had seen behind the curtain. The most unexpected communication came from Rebecca, a simple text reading, "Thank you for saying what some of us couldn't." Week after my ultimatum, Nathan requested to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. He arrived looking uncharacteristically disheveled, the Campbell polish tarnished by stress. "I've been thinking about everything you said," he began, after awkward greetings. "You're right that there's been deception, but I truly do love you, Isabella. That wasn't fabricated." "Love without respect isn't love," I replied simply. "Did you respect me when researching my income potential before approaching me? When opening credit cards in my name? When agreeing to surrender half my salary without consultation?" Nathan flinched. "My relationship with my parents is complicated. The pressure to contribute, to maintain status within the family?" "I understand family. Pressure. What I don't understand is making me an unwitting resource rather than a partner." Our conversation lasted hours, moving through painful honesty to tentative possibility. Nathan revealed his own struggles with Campbell expectations, the constant measurements against shifting standards, the conditional love tied to financial performance. "It's all I've ever known," he admitted. "Financial worth equaling personal worth." His vulnerability seemed genuine, but experience had taught me to verify, not trust blindly. If we have any chance moving forward, we need complete financial separation for at least 6 months, weekly couples counseling, and your commitment to establish boundaries with your parents. Nathan agreed to all terms, though whether from genuine change or temporary accommodation remained to be seen. Time would tell if he could truly extract himself from toxic family patterns. The professional fallout was minimal, to my relief. My boss Richard was supportive, even implementing company-wide financial wellness seminars after I shared a sanitized version of my experience. My performance remained excellent, perhaps even improved without the constant drain of Campbell machinations. More surprising was the aftermath within the Campbell family itself. My stand created fissures that widened into significant cracks in their unified front. Rebecca and Daniel implemented their own financial boundaries, reducing contributions and requesting documentation. Aunt Kathleen began questioning long-accepted family financial traditions. The carefully constructed hierarchy Walter and Judith had maintained for decades began wobbling under scrutiny. Walter ultimately respected my terms, though not from ethical awakening but pragmatic recognition of potential legal and regulatory consequences if I shared my findings more widely. Our interactions remained strictly businesslike on the rare occasions we met. Judith never forgave what she perceived as betrayal of family loyalty. To her, my boundary setting represented a fundamental character flaw rather than healthy self-protection. Her disapproval became a strange badge of honor, confirmation I'd disrupted a system that shouldn't have existed. The most meaningful development came 6 months after my confrontation. Rebecca invited me to lunch, bringing her friend Jennifer, the pharmaceutical researcher Judith had inadvertently mentioned during her outburst. "Your stand inspired me to rebuild," Jennifer explained. "I lost nearly everything financially when I divorced William, but hearing how you confronted them gave me courage to fight for my patent rights." This connection led to an informal support network for others affected by financial control dynamics, not just within the Campbell sphere, but beyond. We shared resources, recommended financial advisors and attorneys, and provided emotional support during difficult transitions. Nathan and I rebuilt slowly, testing the foundations of honesty and respect. Sometimes I wondered if the charming man I fell for was real or performance, if genuine change was possible after lifelong conditioning. Those questions remained partially unanswered. Our relationship a continuous work in progress, rather than a neatly resolved narrative. The most profound change occurred within me. Growing up with limited means had made financial security precious, something to protect at all costs. The Campbell experience taught me that true security comes not just from money, but from autonomy, transparency, and genuine partnership. I realized that wealth without agency is another form of poverty. Prestigious addresses and luxury brands mean nothing if you've surrendered your voice in the process. The appearance of affluence often masks insidious control, golden handcuffs that tighten so gradually you don't notice until they're locked. Today, I protect my financial independence, not from fear but self-respect. I contribute to joint expenses and investments with Nathan based on clear agreements and transparent accounting. Our financial discussions might seem excessively documented to outsiders, but that structure has rebuilt trust between us. My experience changed how I mentor younger women in my industry as well. Beyond career guidance, I emphasize financial literacy, boundary setting, and recognizing manipulation tactics. Your earning potential belongs to you first, I tell them. Partnership means shared decisions, not surrendered autonomy. Sometimes I reflect on how close I came to being absorbed into the Campbell system. One moment of weakness, prioritizing peace over protection, could have locked me into their carefully constructed machine. The love I felt for Nathan nearly blinded me to the slow erosion of my independence. The most important lesson wasn't about money management, but recognizing that true family supports your growth rather than exploiting your success. Family isn't measured by what you contribute financially, but how you're valued completely, unconditionally. Have you ever felt pressured to compromise your financial independence for relationship harmony? Leave a comment sharing your experience. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of reclaiming personal power. Share this with someone who might need permission to establish their own financial boundaries. Remember, your value isn't measured by what others can extract from you, but by the boundaries you have the courage to maintain. Thank you for listening to my story.